Welcome, everybody. My name is Bill Whitelaw. I'm the Managing Director of Strategy and Sustainability at Geologic Systems. We're a Calgary-based global energy intelligence firm. But what's important about this conversation is that I've been a stakeholder of the Clean Resource Innovation Network, shorthand known as CRIN, right from the day it was born a number of years ago. And I've watched it and marveled at how it's grown to be the true network of networks that connects everything that's magical in our Canadian energy sector. And so CRIN, as we'll refer to it from here on in, is going to be at COP28. That's the Conference of the Parties. And what we're bringing to you today is a series of conversations with other CRIN stakeholders that will explore the why of COP, but also the why of CRIN, and how CRIN is just, in effect, just reaching its zenith in terms of its importance in where we're going in a decarbonizing Canadian net zero economy. And so our kickoff guest today to sort of put CRIN into context and to put COP into conference is Director of Operations, Glenn McCrimmon. And so welcome, Glenn. Let's just kick off this conversation. You've been a CRIN advocate even longer than I've been a CRIN advocate. You were as an industry guy, and now you're working within the bowels of the organization. So when you're in Dubai in the not too distant future, and say you're trapped in the elevator and you have an opportunity to talk to some foreign official at a very senior level, how would you describe CRIN and the impact that CRIN has had since it came into being in the Canadian upstream energy context?
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Bill. If I was, say, trapped in an elevator with an energy minister from Kenya or some country other than Canada, and we had an opportunity to have a conversation, I think I would start off by saying that the Clean Resource Innovation Network, or CRIN, is an organization that helps the Canadian energy industry innovate. And when I say innovate, I mean in terms of decarbonization, other environmental issues, and we help them by making connections for them. We make connections across the clean energy innovation ecosystem. So we connect people with the money, the funders. We connect people with the challenges, like the oil and gas companies to be the adopters of technology. We connect people who are the innovators, so the solution providers, the potential solution providers. We connect people who kind of service the innovation ecosystem. So you think of accelerators for startups, or other sort of government and non-government organizations that are there to assist organizations like CRIN. And we also connect them to talent and what we refer to as talent builders through academia and others, folks maybe doing research. And we work to bring them together, and we give them tools that they can use to collaborate and work together in a friendly way. And we do it in a very non-threatening way. So we're not advocating for any type of energy system or any component of the energy system. We believe in inclusivity. And so we talk about, the world needs energy. So the world needs solar and wind and other renewables. The world needs hydro. The world needs oil and gas. The world needs geothermal and nuclear and you name it, to meet the demands of the future. And so the idea is to collaborate, work together, and work to find solutions. And we make that happen. We make it happen by funding projects. We make it happen by helping support an ecosystem and connecting people.
And so let's talk a bit about that ecosystem in a global context. Tens of thousands of people will descend on Dubai, some of the most critically important conversations of our time, right, in terms of how are we going to do this, but more importantly, how we're going to collaborate around this. And for me, it's fascinating because CRIN to me, is a collaboration mechanism on steroids in terms of acceleration. So, help our audience understand CRIN's theme areas and how they interconnect and interrelate with them, but how they drive their almost sub-CRIN efforts in terms of their particular areas. And again, thinking of how we would tell this story to the world through CRIN's presence at COP and the pavilion and all the stakeholders, because we want to explore that a little further in the conversation.
Sure. Well, when we started CRIN, part of the incentive was that CRIN would focus on areas of technology development that were hard for industry to do on their own and hard to do without collaboration. And so there are 7 technical theme areas that we focus on at CRIN. We have digital oil and gas. We have novel hydrocarbon extraction. We have land and well site reclamation. We have water technology. We have cleaner fuels. So think of things like blended biodiesel or sustainable aviation fuels, that sort of thing. We have methane detection, mitigation, and abatement. And we have what we call carbon capture and value-added products. So you think about things like carbon fibers, hydrogen, other value-added products that might come from a hydrocarbon source. And so those are the areas where we focus, because those are the areas that the industry has told us are the too hard pile, if you will. And the challenges that emanate from each of those theme areas are attracting solutions that are applicable beyond the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely.
And outside of Canada. And so what we're trying to achieve here is awareness and also opportunity to innovate more and improve by collaborating with others. So CRIN is focused on this innovation spectrum within Canada. And part of the reason for that is we're funded by the Government of Canada, and they want the innovation to occur here, and they want the commercialization and development and intellectual property that comes from that investment to happen in Canada. Our perspective is that that's amazing, and we want to do that, and we want to help Canada achieve its ambitious climate goals. But at the end of the day, if Canada did achieve its climate goals and we were at net zero, the global climate impact of that fact isn't very large. It's impressive for Canada and very good, and it shows that we're walking the talk. But to have a real impact, developing and cooperating to develop technologies that get us to net zero and then making those available to the world and exporting to the world has an enormous impact.
That's extraordinarily well put. It gets the message across that we can be a resource economy, but more importantly, a resourceful economy in
Correct.
terms of that ability to share those resources to the world. It's very easy to talk in the acronym talk. The old joke in our industry is if you don't hear a new acronym by 10 o'clock, you make one by 11, right? And I remember years ago writing a commentary piece where I argued that CRIN was our industry's last chance acronym. And it was a very positive construction around why the network of networks is so important. But I want to shift to the fact that when we're present in Dubai, it will be the people of CRIN that carry the impact. And so there are 4,000 companies or more now in the CRIN membership system. So start with a discussion around, I want to make it about people in this conversation and the people that you've seen. You've grown tremendously within CRIN. I can't tell you how much CRIN has professionalized a lot of people in my life. But start with the social contract people sign when they join, and then just reflect on some personal examples of individuals we talked about, the common men and women that we know who've, wow, CRIN has really taken their CV from here to there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as I alluded earlier, membership in CRIN is free, but it doesn't mean that there isn't an ask. And the ask is that you sign the social contract. And without getting into detail, the social contract is quite simply you saying that you will be a cooperative member of the network, and that if there are others in the network who reach out and need your help, that you will respond. And likewise, you have that same opportunity. It's that incentive of being a member is to help you access other members. Because one of the value propositions that we say CRIN brings to the table is that we help people connect that might not otherwise be connected. And that's how innovation happens. Innovation does not happen in a vacuum or in a silo. Innovation happens when people are able to cooperate and collaborate. And so the key to CRIN membership is that you say that you will collaborate and that you will cooperate within a network. Now, that reaps many benefits. And I can think of some great examples of people who have benefited through their membership in CRIN, myself included. If I want to call out individuals, I think of someone like Nan Ho Coverton. Great example.
That was my go-to example. You stole it from me. Thanks, big guy.
From Spartan Controls.
Absolutely.
She's been involved with CRIN quite a lot. She's one of our co-leads for our digital theme area. But through the opportunities to present on behalf of CRIN, to get involved in projects that CRIN is supporting, she's become a real advocate of CRIN. And now wherever she goes, her company sends her to many good places to speak on behalf of them. She always puts in a plug for CRIN because she understands the value that it can bring, not just to your organization, but to you professionally. And it helps you connect to others. So she's now connected into a network of people with expertise in land reclamation and in water use. And, it's well beyond the digital stream.
And being a member of the Digital Theme Committee myself, I've learned tremendously from just listening and absorbing. And sometimes I feel bad I don't contribute, but I'm contributed by learning, right, in that sense. So when we think about the CRIN presence at COP and the pavilion and the messaging and the phenomenal panels, I'll get you to describe, if all of a sudden I was able to go to COP, what would I see as an outside observer of the CRIN presence? The other thing is, if I could get you just as a segue in front of that, to talk about that human capital component, because the whole talent connection, talent development almost sits foundationally as a platform on which the 7 theme areas rest.
No, that's correct. It is really all about people. It's all about relationships. I mean, people ask me, what makes innovation work or what makes industry go around? And it really is those personal relationships that do make the exciting potential for progress actually occur. At COP, we've got some really impressive individuals, some of whom will be interviewed here as part of this series. And you'll see firsthand some of the great individuals, but there's opportunities. So I think of people like Justin Reamer from Emissions Reduction Alberta, who will be there, or Laura Kilcrease from Alberta Innovates, and other members of their respective teams. They're going to be hosting sessions within the CRIN Pavilion. But beyond the opportunities to share what's happening in their sphere, they have the opportunity to participate with others and to engage with others, and not just in the Canadian ecosystem or in the CRIN Pavilion, but in other areas as well. One of the beautiful things about the COP situation, the COP arena that CRIN's Pavilion is hosted in, is there are other international organizations with similar themes to CRIN, but maybe a bit different. They don't have a lens into Canada. We don't have a lens into them. Now there's an opportunity for us to share our stories with one another. And we've even talked with others about potential for, I call it horse trading, where, hey, maybe there's somebody that's going to be presenting at the CRIN space that might be interested in presenting at the Renewable Energy Association space, or vice versa, as an example.
What would be, as a director of operations and somebody who's so immersed in the organization, that you would hope the world would say, post-COP, if I was to interview somebody, to say, I went to the CRIN Pavilion and I learned this, but I was able to teach this.
What people should get from their visit to the CRIN Pavilion is a sense of the reality that is innovation in energy and energy systems, and that it's not just talk. There's actual solutions that are available today and that are being applied today. The solutions aren't perfect. There's a long way to go to get to net zero at 2050. But there's a reality that people aren't necessarily aware of. I want people to go away and say, wow, I didn't realize we had some solutions for some of these big challenges. And I'd also like them to come away and say, geez, Glenn, help me understand, how can I get something like this going in my country? How can we get this collaborative network together? How can we get these people to talk to each other? That sometimes, the perception is that there's no way these people would even get along or sit in the same room or at the same table. And, I'd love to have that conversation.
So that is extremely well put, and allows me to put this sort of final question to you as we wrap up. When you're not in the ecosystem and you're a member of the Middle Canada rank and file, energy is very contested, as we said earlier in the conversation these days. It's hyper-politicized in many ways. And for a lot of folks, clean tech and clean innovation seems to them to be a binary choice. It's either clean or it's not. But CRIN really is sort of a really living, breathing example that there's 50 shades of clean. And it's a spectrum of progress, right? And so just reflect on that, about what clean actually means in the CRIN context.
Yeah, well, I mean, when people talk about clean energy, I think what they're talking about is an emissions-free energy or a very low-impact energy. And so the reality is that any form of energy that we consume today can fit that definition. A great example, there's a company called Savictus that we work with that, they extract hydrogen from subsurface coal and leave everything else underground. I mean, would you think of coal as a clean energy source? Well, in this case, it is.
It is, very much so.
Right? So, I mean, you could put the CRIN hat on or even take the CRIN hat off. I mean, it's things like that sort of excite me. It's the opportunity. So I guess another goal for us, and particularly in COP, is help people understand that it isn't black and white. There are shades of gray, if you will, when it comes to what clean energy is. And there are steps. Sometimes it's baby steps. How do you get to a clean hydrocarbon source? How do you get there without carbon capture? How do you get there without, other means of reducing or eliminating source? I think of another company like Accelaware, for example.
Absolutely.
They're working to electrify the heavy oil extraction to eliminate the use of water. The intensive use of water and to boil water to make steam for these SAGD operations and the gas that has to be burned and the GHGs that come from that is why people refer to heavy oil as dirty oil. Well, Accelaware's technology, if that's successful and widely adopted, you're not using water and you're not burning gas to boil the water. So it's huge. So again, these are all things that are in progress, but it's quite exciting to see what the opportunities are.
So we will close on this because I used to use cliches like they were going out of style. Now I don't touch them with a 10-foot pole, but I can't resist, because ultimately CRIN is also about a well-protected and maintained environment and a well-protected and maintained economy. And those two things move in a beautiful synchronicity, if you will. So tongue out of cheek, but the idea for opportunities, it's also a big business development exercise as well, right? In terms of Canadian competencies going globally and other learning competencies coming in. So this will be the final question. So make it a zinger.
So in terms of opportunities, for our partners and members, I should call them members who are participating with us, there is that opportunity to be on the global stage and share with the world the opportunities that exist in Canada, the opportunities that exist with their specific businesses potentially, and opportunities to grow. The point being, though, opportunities to make an impact. This is meant to be a climate change conference, make an impact on the on global climate change.
Couldn't think of a better note to end on. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks so much.